Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today, I bring you a chilling story about a neighborhood where holiday cheer takes a dark turn. This is the Christmas lights that lured people away, a tale of mesmerizing decorations with deadly consequences. Let's dive in. Every December, the small town of Pine Hollow transformed into a glowing winter wonderland. The houses lined up neatly on Maple Street were decked out with Christmas lights that dazzled in reds, greens, and golds. It had become a tradition, a friendly competition among neighbors to see who could create the most elaborate display. This year, the Wilsons had taken the spotlight with their beautiful synchronized light show, but the arrival of a mysterious new neighbor changed everything. No one knew much about the resident at 34 Maple Street, except that they moved in late in the season and wasted no time setting up their holiday decorations. By the next morning, the house was aglow with lights, brighter and more vibrant than anyone had ever seen. Blues, purples, and silvers glistened, pulsing in mesmerizing patterns that seemed almost alive. It began innocently enough. People gathered on the sidewalk to admire the new display. "They're stunning," Mrs. Foster whispered to her husband, her voice distant, as though she was in a trance. Her husband had to nudge her arm twice to snap her out of it. Soon, the entire neighborhood was talking about the lights, how different they were, how they made you feel a little strange when you looked at them for too long. Kids, normally loud and playful, stood quietly staring, their eyes wide and glassy. One night, Mr. Talbert, a retired teacher, wandered closer to the house, mumbling to himself as he crossed the Wilsons' yard. He never returned home. The next morning, his footprints led straight from his front porch to the edge of the woods behind the neighborhood. Search teams combed through the frozen forest for days, but found nothing, not even a trace of him. People whispered about wild animals or an accident, but those who had stared into the strange lights couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As days passed, more people disappeared. Mrs. Foster vanished next, her husband waking in the middle of the night to find their front door wide open and her footprints trailing into the snow. A group of teenagers dared each other to approach the house, but only one came back, shaking and pale, muttering that the lights were calling us. The town spiraled into fear. Nobody dared walk near 34 Maple Street anymore, yet the lights glowed brighter every night, spreading their reach. Even through closed curtains, their reflections bled into homes, drawing the curious and the vulnerable out into the cold. As Tom stepped closer, the door creaked open, revealing an empty, dark interior. The lights outside intensified, shining impossibly bright, and Tom's flashlight flickered and died. Inside the house, Tom could hear whispers, soft, beckoning voices that grew louder with every step. Join us, come to the light." He looked out the window to the woods behind the house and saw dozens of figures standing in the snow. Neighbors, friends, all motionless, their faces blank and lifeless. Before he could scream, the lights flared white, hot, and Tom felt himself pulled toward the back door, the voices consuming him. The next morning, the Wilsons' house was dark, their light display abandoned, and footprints led from their yard straight into the woods. The house at 34 Maple Street was gone, as though it had never existed, leaving nothing but an empty lot and a lingering sense of dread. To this day, locals avoid Maple Street at Christmas time, especially after dark. Some say they can still see faint blue and silver lights flickering in the trees, calling to anyone who dares to look. If you follow them, the story goes, you'll join the others, forever lost in the cold, endless woods. Excerpt.